Hey guys, welcome back to the Derezzed podcast. This is Neon, and we're going to do a follow-up this week with Fresher Luke. We're going to be talking about the animation industry and whether or not the animation industry is completely cooked. So stick around. All right, guys, welcome back. This is Neon. I'm here with Fresher Luke. This is a follow-up to a podcast episode we did a couple of months ago.
Yeah, it was apparently well received. I was reading some of the comments, and people were like, "Bring it back on!" And a lot of stuff has been happening since the last podcast, Neon. And I was like, I really feel like we should talk about this.
All right, so just to give people the I guess the bird's eye view, Luke, could you in like a minute explain to people your history with the animation industry, your experience,
Sure.
in case they missed that first episode?
Yeah, so I'm Fresher Luke. I normally have a skeleton businessman avatar that usually does a lot of moving and talking, but this is a serious conversation. I'm I guess you could say a 10-year veteran in the LA animation scene. Or industry. I've worked at a lot of major studios like Cartoon Network, Warner Brothers, DreamWorks, Disney, etc., etc. And to make a long story short, I have since been excommunicated from the industry, and now I'm an animator in exile, and I talk shit on the internet about the animation industry with my good friend Neon.
We do talk shit sometimes. That's fun. Yeah. So a lot has happened. So the last episode, which you can check out here, just go look for the other episode with Fresher Luke. We kind of talked about the collapse of Cartoon Network and sort of the LA based, Burbank based animation industry, and you gave us some anecdotes and kind of mused as to how and why you think that was happening. But since then, and we're talking just like a month or two, things have escalated. Things have snowballed considerably.
Yeah, that's true. But just a caveat, or I guess a little bit of house cleaning. I think in the previous one, we said that there are like, I guess, cartoon creators or showrunners like Rebecca Sugar aren't really getting any work. But that was actually wrong, as the people in the comments had pointed out. Turns out Rebecca is writing a movie for Matt Brawley's movie, which is a story about Matt Brawley's time in Thailand, which I don't know how a young woman from Rhode Island knows anything about living in Thailand. As I'm assuming a lady boy, but whatever.
There was a whole bunch. I mean, this is what's really weird about this. And we're going to talk about this hashtag that was going around, this R.I.P. Cartoon Network.
Oh, yes, the R.I.P.
Hashtag.
But yeah, I was going to say, I've been looking on LinkedIn and all that other stuff, and there are lots of animators who are still out of work, artists and animators in the animation industry. And just recently, they put out I guess you could say like a PSA, asking for support from the general public.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Because what's interesting about it is they just announced a whole bunch of like sequel and reboot projects for, I think, for Max. I don't think they're going to Cartoon Network. My understanding is this stuff is all going to HBO Max. But it's very interesting that we don't have a lot of people supposedly working in the industry. They're like, oh yeah, we're going to reboot every show we've ever done in the last like 20 years on some level, or a movie or something.
I mean, I wouldn't say the last 20 years, because from what I can see, the reboots, one is regular show, and what's the other one?
Oh my God, what they have? Were they going to do Gumball again? No, they're doing regular show. They're doing, I was thinking Disney, they're talking they might do Gravity Falls again. They're definitely doing Phineas and Ferb.
Well, I mean, we'll get into that as well. But yeah, like they're doing reboots of shows that aren't even 10 years old yet.
Yeah, it's weird because I think it's almost like they're going back to like peak cartoon, I guess. Like, you know,
that's not peak cartoon.
It's not peak cartoon, but they're going back to I believe the fairly recent past, because I think they're trying to bet on nostalgia. So this happened with, you know, being Gen X, early, I guess that'd be late Gen X, early millennial, and about 10 years, 15 years into adulthood, all the stuff I loved as a kid starts coming back, you know, Thundercats and He-Man and Transformers. And so now is about the time where it's like, hey, you liked Adventure Time, right? Yeah. Well, just give you some more of that.
Well, I mean, that makes, for Adventure Time, I'm not entirely sure about that, but what you just described makes perfect sense, right? Because, I mean, Hollywood's been doing this for, I don't know how long, for ages, where they, you know, you have the initial fan base, which in your example, Neon, like you loved all this stuff when you were young, but now that you're older and you have kids, like most executives who are looking at people like yourself as an audience, they see you, because now that you're older, you have a lot more money to spend on these properties that you love, but you also have kids that you can induct into these properties and also buy stuff for them because you want to share it with them because it's part of your childhood and you want to, and you know, we all look at our childhood through kind of rose-tinted glasses, like a simpler time, and it would make sense that we would want your kids, not our kids, your kids, to experience sort of like that same kind of sense of, I guess, awesomeness that we once experienced as well. So yeah, I
tried to get my son into Transformers, and he doesn't care.
Yeah,
he just doesn't care. But that's okay. He's into Godzilla and kaiju and stuff. But
great.
yeah. So he's got good taste. But it is kind of interesting how, you know, these 80s properties especially become these like evergreen, you know, IP. You know,
well, they did that to us when we were kids, right? I'm sure there was like Flash Gordon and stuff for reboots.
Yeah. They had was it Defenders of the Earth?
Yeah.
They tried to bring it back, and then we had like the Heathcliff and the new whatever show. And actually, the weirdest thing I remember from being a kid in the 80s was syndicated shows, and they were all sequels to like 60s and 70s shows, sitcoms and stuff. And the only one that stuck, the only one that was any good was Star Trek Next Generation.
Yeah, that's right, because it was actually really well done. But
yeah, it was really. But they had like the Munsters,
not in the HD version though. You can see all the tape that they typed.
The duct tape and the. But it's crazy how they kept going back to the welding back then. But it was like sitcoms like nobody watched. Like, do we need What's Happening Now? No, we do not. But we're getting it because they needed to fill the airways with the syndicated stuff, you know. Or some cases they were like rounding out syndication packages, because I know like if they need 65 episodes, they might have an animated series that only had like 50 or something. Then they would do new episodes. They did it with the Jetsons. I remember that was like a thing. They had like new episodes and they had the movie, and that was a whole thing because the voice actress didn't get called. They had Tiffany or something, and but they made new episodes so it could be syndicated. So
I remember what the other one was. Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends.
Oh God, yeah! I thought they were doing that as a preschool show.
I don't know what they're doing it as, but this is the other thing that I kind of want to touch on, Neon. What I said before, like it hasn't even been 10 years.
No,
and so I'm thinking the industry is in such dire straits, and these executives are so clueless as to how to pull their butts out of this fire. I'm thinking they were like, well, quick, let's look back and see what worked in the past. Oh, regular show was popular. You know, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends was popular. This was popular. That was popular. And
Gravity Falls
was popular. Maybe if we bring it back, we can make money and we can save our careers. And this goes back to my point on the previous podcast, is that, these executives have no clue what they're doing. They don't want to be here. They don't want to be doing this job. They're just trying to find any means necessary to sort of keep this leaking boat from sinking while they're still in it, so that they can jump to the next boat. So, yeah.
So I'm kind of wondering, because it feels like we've seen Hollywood cut a bunch of streaming content, right? Underperforming streaming content.
Yeah.
But it seems like now all of a sudden we have this dearth of animation, And now it's like, oh, let's do a bunch of sequels and reboots to all this stuff. And it does feel like there's some executives out there trying to justify their positions. Like, oh, you can't cut me because, we're bringing Gravity Falls back. And you like Gravity Falls, right? You like the money, right?
Yeah. Remember Gravity Falls? Well, here's the thing about Gravity Falls. When Gravity Falls was popular, but when it was airing, it didn't make Disney a red cent.
It was an expensive show, right? I mean,
it was a really expensive show. It only really made money after Alex, I guess, was heading out the door, and they created that. They made those books, the real life versions of the journals.
The six-fingered,
and those became like New York Times bestsellers, right? And then and so then it finally made back its money. But I don't know what they think they're going to be able to do if like they're not like actively trying to sell merch anymore. You know what I'm saying? It's like. Well,
that was a big component. Like, I mean, again, you go back to the shows, we grew up with, and they were glorified toy commercials. I get that, but the toy sales paid for the cartoons.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if you're not selling stuff, I mean, it's just like anything else. If you're not selling merchandise, then what's the point?
Exactly. So now, and the other thing is I think something I saw recently, like I think. The other reason is that, I mean, we'll get into the video, but it seems really strange to me that they're announcing all these greenlit shows of past properties that were popular, and yet Animators are still sitting there going, we're out of work. We've been out of work for a year.
Right.
It makes me wonder, where are they sending all that work?
Well, okay, so I was going to ask you that. That was one of the things I was going to talk about, because I am seeing and hearing a lot of grousing. I actually have friends that are heavily into animator discords and stuff, and they're telling me what's going on. They're like, hey, all these animators are complaining that they're not getting work, but they just announced a whole bunch of shows that are going to be done on Cartoon Network. So where, or HBO Max, Cartoon Network Studios, whatever the hell they're calling it now. But so where's this stuff going? Is it going overseas? Are they just outsourcing all of it? I mean, that's what I'm wondering. Are they secretly building these shows in Canada? I mean, what's going on?
Let me shake my magic 8-ball. Oh yes, all signs point to yes, Neon.
North Korea has never been busier, right? They're
I know, right? I wonder
firing up the AI machines in North Korea right now.
I wonder what the hell they're going to be buying with that money. Probably more tanks or something. I don't know.
Oh, jeez.
But yeah, this is what. Like, even though we were partly wrong, this kind of thing is sort of partially proving us right, Neon, from the last podcast. Like, these executives do not want to deal with the animation union anymore, because they've gotten out of control. As everything that leftists touch, it just goes completely haywire. And now these animators are, I guess, reaping the fruits of their non-labor.
I don't know. It is a very scary time, I think, to work in any part of Hollywood. I mean, I'm hearing all kinds of horror stories, and more productions are moving out of LA. And animation's animation, a lot of problems with the industry, obviously, and a lot of problematic people. And we can touch on that here later.
Yes, we are going to touch on that.
I don't know if touch is maybe the word I want to.
We will briefly visit that.
Let's just say there are a lot of people. It seems there are a lot of people working in the industry that it's curious that it's in close proximity to children and children's entertainment.
Yeah.
This is not the first such story to come out. But,
all right. Well, you know what? Now that you've said that, we're going to make it a whole separate segment.
We're going to do that.
Because I have a lot to say about it. But for now, let's talk about this thing here that I kind of pointed out to you, and we kind of were like laughing about it, because this is some next level cope, Neon. Like this is like Neon. This is almost as bad as those Steven Universe PSAs. Almost as bad as those. Remember those?
Oh, was it the white people can't marry black people?
No. It's where Garnet was like shaking a finger and saying, "Be racist."
Be racist or don't be racist. Oh my God! Steven Universe. God, that was so bad. So bad.
We can talk about Steven Universe until the cows come home. But anyway, let's talk about this.
Yeah. This is supposed to be what Adam from Adam Ruins Everything.
Yeah.
Conover.
So this is Adam Conover. Yeah,
That's
from Adam
his.
Ruins
That's his
Everything.
personality now. Is like the union guy, the Hollywood union guy.
No, his personality is to be an annoying twat because I've actually met this guy in real life.
Oh, is he an annoying
and
twat?
he is what you see him on TV is how he is like in real life.
A know-it-all that people hate.
Well, I wouldn't say a know-it-all. He's just
Condescending.
I don't know how to describe. Kind of annoying. Kind of like that annoying. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, kind of like the annoying know-it-all who doesn't actually know anything. But the reason why he's in this video is because he's actually married to Lisa Hannawalt.
Okay.
Who is the showrunner of Tuca and Birdie, I think.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that was the one that got the reprieve.
That absolutely terrible show that even though it got picked up, still got canceled. So it got canceled twice. So yeah,
twice dead. All right,
like
so let's watch this. This was trending on Twitter. Hashtag R.I.P. Cartoon Network. No, we did not start this hashtag, but it's very obvious that they're winding down Cartoon Network as a separate entity. This seems like it's probably just going to be a brand they're going to slap on HBO Max shows when this new stuff comes out, because they closed down they stopped leasing their Burbank studio, right? And Cartoon Network now I think ends at like 5 o'clock, and it switches over to Adult Swim.
Well, excuse me, sorry, it makes sense. I mean, if Adult Swim is a channel, or I guess a property or a brand that specializes in low budget animation, it would make sense that they would want to sort of lean into that more rather than Cartoon Network, which is a lot more, I guess, of a bigger budget. Even though, because I did work at Cartoon Network and the budgets are not the best. Disney has the biggest budget, but yeah, it would make sense why they would want to basically quietly retire Cartoon Network overall. I mean, it's just become too much of, I guess, a liability now, just because of the stuff they've been putting out and the stuff they have put out, like the Steven Universe PSAs that I talked about, has just become non-profitable. And you also mentioned like there were a whole bunch of other animated shows that got pulled from streaming that I would argue also fall into that same sort of category, despite their levels of quality.
I know Infinity Train was one that people kept bringing up, and I mean, I think Infinity Train is actually a quality show.
Well, I've never seen it, so I don't know. Maybe it is.
I think it's pretty good. It didn't merch well, though. I guess that was its cardinal sin, is it didn't merch very well, so they couldn't.
Well, I mean, that's weird. I only ever met the showrunner Owen once. He seemed like a decent enough guy. I think he just really wanted to tell a story rather than make a show that could be turned into merchandise.
Right.
I guess because there was Over the Garden Wall as well, which was also kind of like a cult hit. Yeah. And I don't know if they're going to try and bring that back. I mean, maybe they're probably considering it because it's so popular. But again, it never really made them a red cent as far as I can tell. I don't really think they made any merch for it. But I could be wrong about that. So someone in the chat, please correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm sure they will.
Yeah.
I don't remember there being, I think maybe some plushies or something, but like that was a limited series too. That was only 8 or 10 episodes or something.
I mean, maybe partly because the reason why it was successful was because it was a limited series. It had a beginning, a middle, and an end. But I think Owen was kind of like doing that same kind of angle of like, it's purely about story and character development. And while there's nothing wrong with that, you got to make it pay for itself somehow. So
yeah, and that component tends to be lost on people. So let's listen to Adam explain why Cartoon Network is dying.
Oh, I can't wait.
And see what he says, and just tell me to pause when you want me to pause.
So the rule is so that we don't get I think the rule is so you don't get struck is like every 30 seconds you pause it, and if there's nothing to say, you just say something like banana.
Yeah, well, it's only a minute long, so.
Oh, all right. Well, you only have to say banana twice.
All right, here we go. All right, guys. So this is like take 4. We're going to attempt to run this video in the podcast. I think the gods of Cartoon Network are working against us here. So let's watch this. This is Adam explaining why Cartoon Network is dead.
Wow, so this is where cartoons get made.
Not anymore. Cartoon Network is essentially dead.
Oh,
And other big
no.
animation studios are not far
Oh,
behind.
no. They're all
What the
Spirit
hell?
Halloween.
What happened to all the animation workers?
What happened to them? What
What
happened?
happened? What happened to this? This
What
guy
happened?
This guy looks entirely too normal to be this concerned about his cartoons being taken away. I'm just saying.
That's actually Alex Hirsch voicing that character.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh shit, dude. Now I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Oh well.
No, it's cool. Talk more shit about him. It's great.
I don't know him. I don't know him.
Oh, well, I do. So whatever you say, I'll just agree to it.
A lot of them are
Oh,
unemployed in record numbers, in fact, and many have been unemployed for upward.
We'll draw pets for cash.
Oh, wow. Not porn?
I saw this picture. I'm just like, oh god.
I mean, they could have done like if they'd done if they had done like a porn joke instead of pets, that would have been funnier because it would have rung true.
Yeah, but the reality is some of them probably make more money drawing porn than working in the LA animation industry. There are people making like $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a month drawing.
And we'll touch on that point or visit that point. Sorry, in later on in the podcast. But it's coming up to a really important point right now that we definitely have to talk about. So let's continue.
Okay. Well, more important than this point over here, we'll have to talk about that.
Oh yeah, well that's politics.
The industry during the pandemic.
That's right. When COVID first hit, animation was able to operate completely remotely, making it one of the only forms of entertainment that could continue production uninterrupted. But studios decided to pay them back by canceling projects, outsourcing jobs, and laying off artists en masse.
But why would they do that?
Yeah.
Why would they do that, Neon? It's the mystery of the ages. Why on earth would they get rid of artists who are making a bunch of product that nobody liked, a small subsection liked, didn't make the companies any money, and ultimately all got pulled from streaming platforms? Can you solve this mystery, Neon?
They're mean. They're just mean people.
Those mean executives.
Those mean
How dare they try to run a business? How dare they try to make profit? Don't they realize animators are the people who have to come first? What monsters. How dare they?
Why else? Greed.
Ah, that's
There we
the
go.
reason. Greed.
Greed. Because, you know, I mean, these guys, just out of the kindness of their heart, they should be burning $500,000 an episode on somebody's fanfic.
Yeah, about
You know?
lesbians falling in love and becoming trans. It's like, what is wrong with these people? These are the important messages that must be put out. And damn the expenses, Neon. Damn them to hell.
You can't make your money back because that's capitalism, and capitalism is bad.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. And then you take to Twitter and you bitch about your employer and you bitch about your working condition. Yeah. I don't understand why this is happening. I don't understand.
I mean, God, we'll figure it out one day, hopefully. But until then,
someday
it'll still be a mystery. Yeah.
Big studios make their finances look better by reducing spending and cutting staff. CEOs and executives reaping the monetary benefits for themselves.
So they want to reap, huh? I'll show them reap.
This is everybody on Twitter. This is every cartoon stand I've ever interacted with.
All right, let's. I guess we could probably stop joking and just stare in disbelief. Like this is some massive cope, dude. This is massive cope. And you know what? I don't have any sympathy for these people, dude, because these were the same people who canceled so many animators back in 2017 and 2018, and now they're getting a little taste of their own medicine, and the best they could come up with is like, ooh, greed. Well, shit, I'm sorry these executives are trying to fucking run a business. Like, what the fuck?
Well, this is what I keep telling people, that want to do independent content and journalism, and all that stuff is like the opportunities are there, right? Anybody can start a YouTube channel. Anybody can do independent animation and test it out on YouTube and see how it goes. You don't need the backing of a studio, but that's hard, isn't it? When you're not spending somebody else's money.
Well, you want to know something funny about this short? You know who made this short?
Who made this short?
It was a YouTube channel.
Really?
Yeah, I forget the name of. Yeah. It was what was it called? It was Block something. I forget. But yeah, no, it's a YouTube channel run by the guy who had a short in the Nickelodeon animated shorts program. It was I forget the name of it, but it was like this blue guy with like an Elvis hairdo and like this little.
Oh yeah, I've seen the character. Yeah,
and like little kid with the puffy red hair, and they're like solving problems and stuff like that. It's done by those guys because they didn't pick that up, so he started his own YouTube channel, which is to your point, Neon. And now they're coming to him to make this about the animation industry, which I don't know. I mean, I feel like I should get like an iron, like a clothes iron, and just sort of rub it on me and say, "Oh, the irony."
I know, right? I hope they paid them well. I hope they paid them.
Well, yeah. I mean, that'd be interesting to know.
You want paid? Greed.
Why do you want to get paid? Why are you so greedy? But the other thing is like Alex actually produced this as well, so I'm assuming somebody got paid.
Yeah, right. All right. So we got a whole nother 10 seconds.
10 seconds. These are the most important 10 seconds.
Okay. Okay.
Let's just.
I don't think you'll be doing much with a plastic scythe, but you can help by spreading the word. Post about your favorite Cartoon Network shows you wish were still around using hashtag R.I.P Cartoon Network, and stay tuned for more ways to help tag by following this account. Animation is under attack. Which side are you on?
Green side. Yes.
So this actually kind of backfired on them, right? Because a lot of people are like, Adam Conover's lying. Cartoon Network's not dead. He sounds like Clownfish TV. What the hell? And I mean, for all intents and purposes, it pretty much is, right? It's just like a brand they're going to slap on some cartoon shows for streaming. But like, how quickly this happened, right? I mean, just a couple of years ago, you had animators like, well, everybody else has to stop working. We're going to keep working. We're going to be working forever. We can work. We're going to work at home in our pajamas and bitch on Twitter all day.
Yeah, I think the quote unquote pandemic really did a number on everyone. Like it did a number on the studios who thought the pandemic was going to last forever.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so they went all in on streaming. And look how well that turned out. And that also goes double for the animators who all got employment, except for the ones who had been canceled, by the way. Great work, guys, who couldn't get jobs. And now, I mean, look, as far as I'm concerned, like they can make as many of these videos as they want. People aren't buying it anymore. And the other thing, as far as I'm concerned, is that all these animators, all these canceled pigs, I have no sympathy for them. As far as I'm concerned, they deserved it because now they're getting a little taste of their own medicine. Oh yeah. And here's the other thing. Here's a message to them. Like if they think that, and maybe this will be untrue, but I'll get into that after this. But if they think that they're going to get their jobs back in the industry after being out of work for a year, think again. This is their lives now, and they should get used to it because they are not going to get hired back. The only exception I could think of that is, and this is going to get a little political, is they should be thanking the literal stars that Donald Trump dodged that bullet, because if he it seems like he's going to become president, and if he does, then they should be hoping and praying that he gets the economy back on track, because that's the only way they're going to be able to get their jobs back, as far as I can see.
So this isn't to get political, but I want to talk about that because again, all these franchises that keep coming back again and again and again, that so many modern day animators want to get their mitts on, to use as a step stool to get their own fanfic or whatever. They want to put their own personal rinse on it or whatever. Yeah, those shows were created during the Reagan administration. Yeah. They were created with the goal of selling toys, of selling merchandise, of selling product, which kept the show on the air. And it's so wild to me that, for years we heard that these were just toy shows. It was subpar. The shows were subpar. Like, look, sometimes we do have the nostalgia glasses on, and I go back and watch some of the old stuff. I'm like, God, this did not age well. Sure. But then sometimes I watch Mighty Orbots. I'm like, this is like the best animation that was on Saturday morning.
Well, I mean, the intro for sure, but anyway,
that pilot episode.
The pilot episode is beautiful, but the series was just the quality just kind of was slowly dropping off, like a lot of those shows did.
Dark Water was the same. The miniseries was fantastic, and then it kind of petered out. But anyway, it's like that horse drawing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But they're complaining about it, right? And it's like, this is the stuff that you guys would kill to work on, and it's still evergreen IP. It comes back every 10 or 20 years because it sells merchandise, right? Until you kill it.
Well, yeah, until you kill it. I mean, we've seen that with Star Wars. We've seen that with other IPs, like IPs that you would think would be evergreen, but yet somehow these people are good at two things, like not being able to cook instant ramen and killing IPs that are supposed to be evergreen. Like, that's like, I don't know. I'm not trying to be facetious, but that's like to not even try and still be able to do that. Like, that is some different level of capability that I cannot fathom. It's bizarre to me. But yeah, it's it's so strange how they've all just gotten it all so backwards now, and they've just kept doing it because they thought, oh, we're just not doing enough of it, and now they're all out of jobs, and yet they're still trying to convince everyone that they're the good guys and they've been done wrong. It's like, no, guys, you screwed this up royally. I don't know what else to tell you.
What is going to happen? And we're going to, I mean, this is my personal opinion, but I think what we're going to see is a correction in all of entertainment. And this is an opportunity for companies now to look at people that were legitimately problematic. I'm not talking like they're, hot takes on Twitter, whatever. I'm talking like people that came in and they wanted to, create like an activist-minded workplace. People that came and wanted to cause problems. People that in some cases use blackmail to keep or get jobs or get their friends in, and that's a whole nother.
I mean, they use things like Whisper Networks and Blacklist, or they have, and I don't know if they're still doing it. But
look, I think it's gonna be meritocracy. I mean, I think you're gonna have pockets of people, but like look at. So what I was saying here is like look at the 1980s, and then look at like the late 60s and the 70s, and a lot of people that were working in the animation industry and this, in comics too, 60s and 70s were kind of
conservative-ish leaning kind of guys.
Yeah, and some of them made the cut in the 80s and into the 90s, and some of them didn't. I mean, a lot of the hippie animators or whatever that we had, the hippie cartoonists, like they didn't make the cut. They didn't want to be associated with the lowbrow, toy commercial or whatever. But I think that's what's going to happen. I think anymore, and it's so weird because I know like we pitched shows back before the big change, which I personally think happened around 2012, 2013. The big change.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a specific date, but it is around that sort of era. Because I was there, and looking back on it, there was some glacial change happening around that time. So, but you are right.
Prior to that, when you were going to pitch a project, whether it was a show or a graphic novel series or a game, whatever, they wanted to know, how is this going to pay for itself? You had to show them like, look, these characters are marketable. This is the demographic that we're going for. You can make plushies or games or whatever out of these characters. Here's what we're thinking. And that was like one thing we had to do. Like you tell us how your idea is going to make us money, and we will give you money because we want to get some money back. We want to make money off of you. And then anymore, then after that was just like, okay, oh, hey, you just showed up yesterday on Tumblr. Oh, you only got like 500 followers. Cool. Have millions of dollars.
It doesn't work like that, Neon. You know that. We talked about this in the last podcast.
Yes, we did. But it was a very different, like the days of working your way up the ladder and anything, just kind of everything got upended. And I think because of DEI, I think it was like we had a lot of mandates out there, like go find this particular person, then
totally
type of person. Then you get that particular type of person. They hire all their friends. They hire their friends. The next thing you know, the termites are eating the foundation. Your company's flat ass broke.
Pretty much. And so then you got to lay everybody off.
Yeah.
Who's caused it. And then they make a video saying that you're a greedy, mean man.
You're a greedy, mean man. So what do you think prompted this? I know they're going to have negotiations this summer. Is that what's going on?
Yeah. So they've been putting out emails saying that basically having meetings or a general meeting and other smaller meetings with, I guess you call them like craft committees. I don't know how the hell those work.
No.
And they're essentially trying to prepare for the next contract negotiation, which I don't think is going to go the way that they expect it to. Because the other massive elephant in this room, aside from the absolute debacle that they've caused through their activism, is that AI is coming down the pipeline.
Yes.
And that thing is getting better and better every month. And they're saying AGI is going to be either 2025 or 2026, which is why I said earlier why those animators are never going to get their jobs back. And I've heard rumblings that maybe not the Animation Guild per se, but the Hollywood guilds overall are considering or thinking about doing another strike a year after they've already done one.
Really?
Or was it 2 years? Something like that?
I think it was like a 2 year. I mean, that was bizarre. I know IATSE is negotiating right now. And
that's the thing. Yeah. So the Animation Guild falls under the IATSE umbrella.
Okay.
So whatever IATSE does, the Animation Guild has to follow suit because they're kind of seen as a smaller guild. I don't know what the dynamic is now that they've gone national, but that's generally what they have to do. And if IATSE goes on strike, then the guild is more than likely going to go on strike. And I guarantee you when that happens, it's not going to go the way they expect it to. It's going to work in the opposite direction. It's going to backfire on them. Well,
talking about backfire, things backfiring, the John Lasseter situation.
Oh,
with Paramount.
I love this story.
Paramount and Skydance. So for those of you who haven't been paying attention, if you've been listening to Clownfish TV, the regular Clownfish TV YouTube videos, John Lasseter was pushed out of Disney. It was very why he was pushed out, very nebulous allegations against him. I still don't know exactly what happened. I personally think people had an axe to grind with him.
They used Me Too as an excuse. John was another one of these white males who got canceled through Me Too.
Yeah. It was like he hugged people. He touched somebody's knee or something. I mean, it wasn't like he was a convicted rapist.
I mean, I've heard stories about him that aren't favorable. Nothing as crazy as that,
right.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
It could be that he was a tyrant in the workplace and they were like, let's get rid of him.
That's what I had heard from people who heard through the grapevine, that he was not well liked by people who didn't want to work. I mean, the old guard at Pixar, like, they love this guy because he's been there since the beginning. But there were some people that, newer employees that thought he was mean.
Yeah, I've heard different stories from other employees who were there from the start. But anyway,
okay, well,
we'll move on.
We'll move on. Well, anyway, regardless, Lasseter's gone. Disney did not shit can him right away. They let him right out of his contract.
Yeah,
which, if this guy was, I mean, personally, I'm thinking if he really was doing anything egregious, he would have been out the door like that day. Here's your box. Put your Nemo shit in the box and get out. That didn't happen. What did happen was he originally was he picked up by Skydance at first, or did
it was
Paramount? I think
it was Paramount. Yeah,
it was Paramount. And then at the time, their head of animations like, we will never work with John Lasseter. And then he wound up over at Skydance. There's a big deal with voice actors quitting. We're never going to have anything to do with John Lasseter. Then Women in Animation, Margaret Dean, she pens a letter. Yep. We're never going to work with John Lasseter. We have to drive this man out of the industry. Well,
but not just that man. All white men. They all have. Oh, they all have to be driven out, except for the quote unquote allies who will do what we say and not argue with us.
Yeah, they're eating last, right? That's how it works.
Exactly.
So Lasseter's at Skydance, and doesn't he start pulling people away from Disney? I thought that was really interesting.
Really interesting. Yeah,
people start jumping ship kind of one by one, and like all of their really big directors kind of wound up at Disney.
I knew,
or at Skydance rather.
I knew a couple of guys that I worked for who were actually pretty cool dudes, and they went and worked for him as well. So, I mean, if those guys are going to go work for him, then something's happening. So,
well, okay. So then the woman that said that Paramount will never work with John Lasseter, I had a friend write me and say, "Oh no, she's been gone for like 2 years now, and she hasn't gotten any work in the industry."
Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I just found this out about a week ago.
Oh, wow.
I had a guy write me. It's like, oh no, she's been gone. And if you check her LinkedIn, she hasn't done shit since like 2021, 2022. So she made a big deal about John Lasseter.
Because after the last podcast that we did, Neon, I got a few weird messages as well. So
interesting.
There are people who are, I guess you could call them sleeper cells, for lack of a better term. They're not terrorists, but they're just people who are laying low, who are just like, some of them use burner accounts, I guess, because they didn't want to be identified. But it's like
right. Which I understand. I mean, given I mean, you speak up, you're an animator in exile.
It was very interesting that I got such messages in my inbox after that podcast, and now we're doing this one. So it'll be interesting what happens after that. But
so she apparently got, I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but yeah, this guy wrote me and said, yeah, she's been gone for like 2 years. It was done quietly and pretty quietly. I think it was in like a trade or something. And they made it like, oh, movers and shakers or whatever. So-and-so is taking this position. But basically she's gone. She's been gone for like 2 years and she hasn't gotten any work in animation. So now Paramount is getting absorbed by Skydance, and it looks like John Lasseter is going to be in charge of the whole fucking thing.
Oh, wow. Well, so we'll finally get a reboot of SpongeBob. Hooray.
Yay. But that means he's going to be in charge of everything they said they might actually sell stuff. They might actually sell off stuff that doesn't perform. But I can't.
I remember you doing
SpongeBob's money.
I remember you doing a video about that, or multiple videos about that, and it rings true. Yeah, it's basically a fire sale. They're probably one of the first. When a company does that, it's probably the good sign that the company's failing. So
yeah,
this is the same thing kind of happened in 2008 during the 2008 crash in the gaming space. Bunch of studios started going out of business, and that's when the mergers and the buyouts and the absorptions all start to happen, and everything starts getting, and everything, the map starts to change, and everything kind of gets shifted around a lot, and then like a slightly new dynamic kind of emerges. But then it's kind of like the more things change, the more they stay the same, so to say. So
now we'll see what happens, because if Lasseter is at Paramount owns Nickelodeon, and they're doing all Skydance stuff now. And Women in Animation said, hey, we're never going to work with John Lasseter, and he's in charge of Nick. Well, that takes a studio off the table, doesn't it? Because you have
it does, but you also have to understand that these people are absolutely hypocritical in everything they say.
Okay.
So they might say that as, what do you call it, public posturing.
Right.
I'm sure, but because, you flash enough money in front of them, and John's Lasseter's like, he's probably rich as all heck.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure, and if someone's rich enough, people will be like, well, all right, maybe you did all those horrible things, but you're rich, so I'm willing to give it a pass. Because that's how these people, that's what they bend the knee to. They bend the knee to power. Because if they can bend the knee to power, that means they can get closer to the power, and sort of, like the slow knife, they can sort of like slowly just kind of inch their way towards it and reposition themselves. And then once they're in the right position, like some stupid episode of Game of Thrones, because I'm pretty sure most of this is happening because they're all fans of Game of Thrones, because they can't differentiate fiction from reality. And so they come in, and then the whole process will start all over again, because men are stupid.
Let's hope that lessons were learned. Let's hope.
Dude, we're talking about the animation industry here. No lessons will ever be learned. No one learns a lesson in animation, dude.
Walt Disney did.
He did.
Walt Disney did. After the animators turned on him, he did.
Yeah, he knew exactly what to do. But a lot of these people are just they're spineless, they're cowards. They're not gonna, if they can take an easy way out, they'll do it, and it'll all just re-happen all over again.
So let's talk about. I guess we're going to talk about this.
We may as well. Why not?
Let's rip the Band-Aid off.
Well, actually, let's just go back real quick. Can we just go back real quick before we do that? Because I did want to say one more thing, because of that public service announcement. I really appreciate you being patient with me, Neon.
Oh, that's fine.
So they're all, Alex Hirsch and Mike Rianda and all these other people, and Adam Conover. They've created this PSA saying, "Oh, all these animators are out of work," right? And to your point, Neon, when you say you don't need the studios, the opportunities are out there. You can start a YouTube channel, you can build your own audience, yada, yada, yada. Here's the thing. If Alex and Rianda and all these other guys were so serious about what they're saying in here, theoretically, they could start their own studio/YouTube channel tomorrow, offer jobs to all these out of work animators.
Yes.
And they could say, well, I'm the savior. It'd be especially good for Alex because he loves to put himself in the limelight as this, as Jesus Christ and all 13 or 12 apostles rolled into one. And he could say, well, I saw these animators suffering. I decided to give them all jobs, and it could be a win-win for everybody. But why hasn't that happened?
It would be interesting, and I've seen this happen with mainstream entertainers before. They go to YouTube and they fall on their faces. Not saying that would happen, but wouldn't that be awkward if you were a showrunner?
Not if you're doing it in the context of like, well, these animators need work, and so I'm going to step up and I'm going to do something to build an infrastructure so that they don't become homeless. Right? You would think. Wouldn't that make the most logical sense?
That would make the most logical sense.
Could there be another reason why they haven't done that? In that they just don't actually give a shit because they've already made it. And they're more than happy to pull the ladder up behind them.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
But you know what? This is an opportunity for those guys to prove me wrong. Start a studio. They could do a crowdfund tomorrow and raise at least $1 million. Kennedy could do that. He could start his own studio and raise at least $3 million for a project.
Oh God, Critical Role. They did the crowdfunder for their animated series, and they did I think it was like $12 million. And
dude. So there's demand for it. Yeah. There's demand for it, but they don't do it. So another mystery for the ages. I know the answer, but whatever. So we don't get sued. We'll just shrug our shoulders and go, whatever.
Whatever. Don't know.
Right. I just wanted to say that. Like that was the one thing that sort of stuck out to me the most about this PSA. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of opportunity. I mean, the thing that gets me about all this, it's upheaval in Hollywood, and we've been telling our viewers, and a lot of them are creatives or aspiring creatives or displaced creatives. There's like unlimited opportunity out there.
Absolutely.
I mean, you just have to be good, and you have to be willing to take your lumps. And you have to be willing to learn, and you have to humble yourself. You might have to view it as like a career reset. Like, okay, well, I was a showrunner on a cartoon 10 years ago. Guess what, sweet cheeks, you are not now. You're going to start at the bottom, but if you're good enough and you're tenacious enough, you'll get there.
Well, here's the thing. If you're a young animator, here's the thing. I've had like lots of young artists come and approach me and say, how do I get in the industry? And the advice I give them now is don't bother. Start your own studio, go independent. Because if you're young, you still have that fire in your belly and you can just grind the heck out of it and still like come out the other end and still be standing. Like if you're a bit older, it's a lot harder. But I think, like, again, this is for anyone who's young, who's interested in animation, who wants to do it. There's lots of examples of people already making it online already. But now the power is in your hands. You can make of it whatever you want. And I suggest you start your own YouTube channel. Maybe get a couple of your friends together, start collaborating, start making stuff. And I can't guarantee you'll make it, but at least it's not a case where you miss every shot you don't take.
Right. No, 100%. I agree 100%.
Yeah.
And as far as like getting a show picked up or whatever, it's like anymore, you're gonna have to find a way to bankroll it yourself, or mostly.
Well, that's what I mean. You got things like crowdfunding. I mean, Eric July is a great example. Like he did nothing but the marketing grind for how many years, and then he up and went and did a crowdfund, raised a bunch of money. I mean, Vivian Medrano is another amazing test case. Like she had a Patreon, she just did a lot of grinding, built her fan base as well as got it funded through Patreon, and now her show got picked up by A24. Yeah, and I mean everybody hates it now, but that comes more down to like the kind of content and sort of like the lack of writing. It's not so much about the animation, the technical side of the animation per se. It's more about the story and the writing. But it still stands as the golden standard for becoming independent and funding your own stuff. So I never thought I would give Vivian Medrano props. So
yeah, but it just shows it's possible, right?
It is.
Regardless of what you think about the person or what you think about the product, it shows that it is possible to do this. We have examples, lots of examples actually.
So and they're growing every day. There's more and more examples every day. Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna move on to the dark side of Cartoon Network.
Yeah, here we go.
All right, here we go. This gentleman here. So this is this is happening a lot in these circles, isn't it? We have people that really like kids entertainment.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of history behind that, Neon. Yeah, I don't know where to start. I mean, I guess we could talk about this.
Well, we'll stick to the facts. I don't want to
let's stick to the facts.
I don't want any litigation, but this is Kyle Adam Conover. Is that what it is?
Conover, whatever. Yeah.
Who's the creator of Mighty Magus Awards, and he got arrested in Burbank for CP. And this is not the first case by a long shot that I've heard. I mean, we had that other showrunner with the Netflix show. It was a woman actually who was
that we talked about in the last
yeah she said that how she's like following some 13 14-year-old boy around the carnival or something.
To be fair though, she didn't, I mean, maybe she does, I don't know, she didn't get arrested with 600 images of CP on her
wow.
Oh sorry, well the story says 400, but I also read somewhere it was 600, but anyway.
This says 600. Yeah, 12 videos, 600 images.
Oh wow, 12. Jesus Christ.
Oh god.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, but yeah, this is, I want to say this is shocking, but it's kind of not shocking at this stage. I mean, we can basically more or less categorize a lot of these activist kinds of people that, let's not read the comments.
Yeah.
Like Mighty Pedo. All right. I'll read that one. Mighty Pedo Swords. It's hilarious. But, yeah, I mean, I saw some weird stuff, maybe not as weird, not as crazy as this, but yeah, like I don't know, man. I think there's something weird going on in LA. I really do.
You think?
But I don't think it's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like this, it's not something in the water. It's just there's something, whether it's because, you've got all, people make so much money there, and there's all this, everyone like love bombs you and tells you you're the best thing in the world, and your ego gets overinflated, and then you start believing you're in BS and getting tickets on yourself, and then like Tiger Woods, you just start acting out. I mean, I'm not trying to excuse this man, this disgusting, horrible man, and his disgusting, horrible crimes. I'm just kind of saying that LA is more or less Sodom and Gomorrah. There we go. I said it.
Okay. So that kind of, I guess, takes it back around. So with this, if there was a higher than usual concentration of people that were into some really kinky, illegal shit, working in incestuous industry, would it be wise for the studios and the corporations to move the animation production someplace else?
I would say yes.
Okay. Like let's go to Idaho or something.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Because Idaho, I don't think I've been to Idaho yet, but from what I can tell, everyone's just kind of like, good down to earth kind of people. And whereas in LA, it's some strange. It's turned to some strange fever dream. And again, to get a little political, you've got the governor who's signing laws saying people can't get arrested for hurting children in certain ways if they're certainly, or something like that.
Yeah, that's a whole.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. But
that's a whole other thing.
But again, it's the environment that percolates that allows this kind of stuff. And here's the other thing. It's like a little bit of a history lesson. Back when Me Too was first kicking off, and women in animation was basically taking over the industry through a silent coup, there was this what would you call it, like an open letter that all the females in animation who banded together and formed their little whisper network, they wrote this open letter to all the animation studios saying to stop, I think it was to stop sexual harassment within all the studios, and they all signed their name to the letter. And that was back in 2017, I think, or 2018, around that. That was about the time of Me Too, right?
Yeah.
So they wrote and signed that letter. And they distributed that letter to all the studios, along with the blacklist of the males that they wanted to get out of the way, because those were the talented ones and they couldn't compete with them. But I mean, here's the really weird thing: like, how well did that work? Because the other thing is, like, the only studio that I know of that does background checks for that kind of stuff is Nickelodeon, because they had a scandal many years ago,
Right.
about one of their employees. And this is absolutely, you can look this up, it's online. I forget what year it was, but there was one of their employees where during the weekends, I think there was like a tennis court or something where kids would go for like summer camp to do sports summer camp or something.
Mhm.
I'm probably getting that wrong. But he would sort of go over there, sort of lure them in and say, hey, I work at Nickelodeon. And he'd lure them into the studio and do very illegal things there. And that's what brought on the background check for any new employees. So I always found it weird that they wrote that letter knowing that Nickelodeon already has that policy in place, but Nickelodeon is the only place that has that policy, as far as I know.
Yeah, well, then we have the whole Dan Schneider thing over
Exactly,
Nickelodeon
right?
too. Yeah, so it's like
how good is the policy? Because there are other guys in there who got caught on To Catch a Predator who worked at Nickelodeon who are back working there again. So it's like, what is going on? Like, why do we have these rules in place in the first place if you're not even going to enforce them? It's crazy.
I mean, the unfortunate truth is, if you're into that sort of thing, a lot of these people do tend to work in industries that put them in close proximity to kids. You know, I mean, it's just, and so you're working in kids entertainment, you're going to be around kids. You say, hey, I work on this cartoon or that cartoon. You want to see me naked? Yeah, I mean, I'm saying it's like
it's predator behavior.
Right.
Like, why have those policies if you don't enforce them? It's stupid.
Yeah.
I don't get it. And they write these letters. It's like, how effective was that letter? Because here's the other thing. Kyle worked on the Animaniacs reboot. You know, the one where they accused Johnny Depp of lying and then he won this freaking court case. He worked on that, and he worked on all these other shows long after the fact. So, like, how effective was this movement, Neon?
Well, I mean, same thing happened in comics, right? They had this letter going around, you know, thou shalt not rape, and take this anti-rape pledge and anti-harassment pledge. And some of the people that signed it were kind of like known harassers, and not to go down a whole nother hole, but they have this situation with like Neil Gaiman now, who is like,
oh yeah, that's a
feminist, ultra feminist Neil Gaiman, and there it's a cover. Like apparently this guy, now I don't know the whole story, but I did see some images floating around on Twitter that apparently he was doing cartoons, chastising people for liking, lowly anime or whatever.
Yeah.
And he himself is a creep. And
they always project Neon.
It's projection. It's projection and deflection.
Cancel pigs always project. They always project. They always double down. They always lie. And this is the prime example. And he was a quote unquote ally. But here's the other kicker. When Mighty Magisaur, I don't remember the specifics because this story was from a while ago. But from what I understand was that there was a certain young artist that I think worked on Mighty Magisaurs that Kyle had some kind of beef with. And essentially the crux of it was, maybe someone in the comments can correct me, she or he drew, I think, like lolly stuff or whatever.
Okay.
And so he saw that, used that to get them fired and ruin their career, which I think is the most irony of all ironies, because that's already proof there that he's a cancel pig.
Right.
But second of all, like, again, he was projecting massively. I mean, you cannot, I don't know. It's like something out of a movie. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's nuts that's how that turned around.
Well,
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, because I was thinking before we started recording, I was talking about Pete Townsend, the Pete Townsend situation.
Yeah.
And I'm old, for those of you who don't know. Pete Townsend was the founder of The Who. He was the guitarist for The Who, and about, I want to say it was 10 or 15 years ago, they found a stash of CP on his computer, and then it just got memory hold. Like, we never heard anything about it. But he claimed it was because he was working with an organization that was trying to stop, kids from being abused or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but then a lot of times people that are in that, again, they're into that kind of thing. They put themselves in close proximity to be able to have access to it.
Yeah. Anyway, but it's I don't know, man. Part of me is sort of like, I'd be lying if I didn't say I felt a little bit of Schadenfreude about what's going on here, because now the cancel pigs are getting canceled. It's fine. What has come around has now gone around, and it's finally hitting them in the butt now. So
yeah, my son, it's interesting. He's very wise for his age, and he talks about the art of war. And he said,
wow.
Sometimes you just have to wait for the bodies to float.
Oh, I love that. I love that quote. That's my favorite quote. Stand by the river long enough and watch the bodies of your enemies float by.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, what is going to happen. I think a lot of the people who were behind cancel culture, whisper networks, blacklist, all that, they're going to find themselves on the receiving end of it. And eventually the market will course correct, because it has to, because that free venture capital, that's not there anymore. And these studios have to make money, and they're going to hire people that have an eye on making money. And it doesn't matter if you've been canceled. I mean, geez, Lasseter and how many other people now are getting work, because he knows how to make money. He's made money. He's made lots of money.
Yeah, because
so that's why he's getting work.
He makes good product.
Yeah.
Funny that.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird the way that works? You make good product, people buy the product, and then you make money.
You can be the biggest asshole in the world, and as long as you're making money, you'll get work. Or
sometimes the biggest assholes make the most money. Sometimes
type A personality, right? I mean,
type A,
people, and that's fine. I mean, I'll put up with somebody that's an asshole if they make money. Now, if you've got both counts where you're not able to make money and you're an asshole, or you're untalented and you're an asshole, then you're just going to be gone, right? People like working with nice people. Maybe they're not that great, they're not that talented, but they're pleasant to work with. That's fine. You're not going to get as far as somebody who knows what the hell they're doing. But
no, we talked about this on the last podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. You need some nice people. You need people who have people skills, like know how to be polite and not start screaming in the middle of a meeting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I mean, again, it's better to have people with different traits, like true diversity, different traits, different ways of seeing things, rather than just hiring people based on whether or not they're your friends or if they're just nice to you and tell you everything you want to hear. You know what I mean? You want people who are going to be like, I don't agree with this idea, and these are the reasons why. But they don't like that. They don't want to be challenged, because these are insecure, petty, cowardly people who are now getting their comeuppance. And you know what? I'm grabbing my popcorn and I'm here for it.
All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap this one up.
Oh no, it was a that.
Yeah. So that's so we'll see what happens. I have a feeling there's going to be a part 3. I have a feeling.
You know what? I don't think there's going to be a part 3.
You don't think there's going to be a part 3?
I
This is how it ends, just with a whimper, like, oh,
more or less. I mean, we've already laid out how it's going to go. I think if there is a part 3, it'll be like many years in the future. It'll be like, oh, we were either right or wrong, and all of this happened, and everybody went out and they started their own YouTube channels, and everybody got a bunch of money and became successful, which is what I would love to see. But I don't know if there'll be a part 3 unless they make another one of those horrible PSAs. So
we'll see. So where can people find you, Fresher Luke?
You can find me on Twitter at Fresher Luke, and I have my Ko-Fi / Esoteric Skull. The link is in my Twitter profile, so just check it out. You can find me there. Where can they find you, Neon?
I'm all over the place. I'm actually very easy to find. This podcast you can find Spotify, Amazon, iTunes, eventually YouTube. We're going to be ramping up our Patreon, so you'll get it early on Patreon, probably like a week early before it hits YouTube. So please support us over there if you can. We also have the Clownfish TV channel, the Clownfish Gaming channel. A couple of different websites, and I talk too much on Twitter, and I get myself in trouble.
Can we take this image off? That's making me lose my lunch right now. I just hate looking at this.
Yeah, we can do that. Let's
Thank you. Well, that was great. That was a great podcast, Neon. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. Thanks for coming back. And like I said, hopefully there isn't a part 3. But you're more than welcome to come back anytime you want to. I'm hoping there won't be a part 3 because again, I don't really like streaming. I do like coming on and talking to you because we get to talk about shop and stuff. But
all right. Well, I appreciate it.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
All right, guys. We're gonna wrap this one up. Please subscribe. We'll talk later.
Bye.